the part where they went at your play was specifically interesting to me. I thought Jill is 1,000 times better than a lot of the women that are signed to the tour.
I just beat the Brooklyn Aces, your own team. But yeah, that whole week of the Masters, it was like just tweeting about me and saying, oh, I withdrew from mixed. I didn't withdraw from mixed. Someone put pressure on my partner, CJ Klinger, 17-year-old, to withdraw. Yeah, I didn't withdraw from mixed. He was put under pressure to withdraw.
I love watching your journey. That's why I'm so excited for so many people to understand it better and hear it from you, because when I first got involved in Major League Pickleball in 2022, I hosted my first event in Columbus, Ohio. That's when I met you. You were the CEO of DUPR.
And you were in a bright orange jumpsuit running around the court. I look over and I go, who is that person? I have to be friends with her.
You were, oh my God, it was amazing. And you were playing a lot of rec at that time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Jill is so good. Like, she's as good as these pros out here. What is going on?
Thank
you. A year later, not even a year later, a couple months later, you went full-time pickle. So we'll get into that journey, but
sure.
First, let me just welcome everybody back to the Talk Pickle To Me podcast, or should I say Talk Pickle To Me? I'm your host, Pickleball Chick, aka Caitlin Kerr. I found pickleball in 2021 and it absolutely changed my life, similar to Jill, who we have here today. And I recently started this podcast. We are currently in the series of the 10 most influential women in pickleball. In our 6th episode today, we have the one and only Jilly B, aka Jill Braverman. Jill was the former CEO of DUPR and former chief of staff of Major League Pickleball. Prior to pickleball, she was the chief of commercial at UTR. AKA, Jill is a badass businesswoman. In January of 2023, she decided to drop her traditional corporate role and go full-time professional pickleball player. Jill, talk pickle to me.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be on your 10 Most Influential Women series, because the women that have come before on this podcast and who you have lined up, that is an astounding group of women. So thank you for including me. And my goal by the end of this podcast is to convince you to do what I did. Quit it all and just go pro in pickleball, Caitlin. That's my goal.
I don't think I have your skill set. We'll get into your tennis background and everything like that. But I would love to do that. That would be my dream. So we shall see. But in all seriousness,
I've got 59 minutes. I'm ready.
In all seriousness, thank you for being here today. And to everyone watching and listening, please take a second to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Leave us 5 stars. And please make sure you follow us on Instagram at Talk Pickle To Me. Comments are helpful. Everything's helpful. Jill knows this. She has her own 2 podcasts crushing it out there. So make sure you're following Jilly B as well.
I would just say, Caitlin, you're a pro. It took me at least like 42 episodes to be like, I think I should ask people to subscribe. What do you think, Kristen? Oh, maybe we should ask them to follow us on Instagram. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jill. Like we were like blind leading the blind for like 9 months.
Well, I have to say, I have been... So I don't know if you know the podcast Call Her Daddy. But I went to high school with Alex Cooper. We played soccer together. Our families, like when I got recruited to all these, I went to Duke, played soccer. She went to Boston University. Her parents were talking to my parents. So anyway, I've like studied her podcast from the ground up since inception. I've watched almost most episodes, and I watch a bunch of podcasts. Like I love the Tim Ferris podcast, like we talked about before. So I'm kind of like taking bits and pieces. This is the 6th episode. It needs a ton of work, but just trying to
just keep making the art you want to see in the world. That's what my wife, Kristen, always says to me.
I love that. It's a creative journey.
You need to get Alex Cooper on your podcast. Does she play pickleball? Let's bring her on.
So she just had Amy Schumer on her podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy Schumer, she asked Amy what one of her biggest pet peeves are. And random as fuck, Amy Schumer goes, I hate people that play pickleball. Or like, I hate pickleball. I hate the noise of it. I hate all of this. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And Alex Cooper said she has never played. When I bought into a Major League Pickleball team, I texted Alex Cooper. So she used to respond to me like back in 2021, 2022, and she has not responded to me since, like, for the past 3 years. And I'm like, fuck, I really want to. So my life goal would be for Alex Cooper to like hire me at the Unwell Network and then like talk Pickle to Me under it and like do that, because she's a badass. Alex,
are you listening? Can you hear this? Make this happen. Okay, in Amy's defense, right? It says this is a product of my wife. She's always encouraging me to like look at the other side. I swear she could empathize with a serial killer. In fact, she has. She really has. She's been like, oh, but can you imagine having those impulses and those urges, Jill? I'm like, oh my God, Kristen, do you hear yourself? So in Amy's defense, I really believe in like definitely 10 years, but maybe like even 5 to 6. We're going to be like, oh my God, Caitlin, do you remember when pickleball was allowed? When we used to have those like carbon fiberglass paddles? Oh my gosh, now it's all like carpet and felt, like the owl paddle. I really think that's the trajectory. What do you think?
Really? I don't. I studied national governing bodies of sport when I was getting my MBA, and I studied a lot about USA racquetball, US tennis, and US bowling. Mm-hmm. USA pickleball is definitely, that was on their radar. This was like 2 years ago I did this. I think the goal should be to keep the technology at a point where most players can still play. So I think focusing on, not getting these paddles crazy into power. What happened with racquetball, it got too fast, too hot, so the average person couldn't play it.
Yeah.
That's to me the goal. The noise, I just haven't thought that much about it, to be honest. I just don't. I know it's an issue. I know it's a problem, but what percentage of pickleball I think majority will still be played outdoors versus indoor, but more facilities are coming.
See, your problem is like mine. There's no more beautiful noise than the noise of that thwack, that pickleball paddle nailing the plastic ball. I just love it. See, you're like, I haven't even thought about this.
No, I'm obsessed. It is one of my favorite noises in the world. So I'm like, I don't care about the owl paddle yet. Maybe I will. But okay. Thank you guys all for being here today. Like I said, we're doing the 10 most influential women in pickleball because there is a lack of women in positions of power in pickleball. It's evident, and I want to help change that by highlighting women that have and are pushing the sport to new heights. So Jill is definitely one of them. So I'm so excited to get into Jill's life journey. So we might as well start off with, let's talk about what baby Jill was like. What was it like growing up? Where did you grow up? What was family life like? Give it all to us.
Baby Jill had 2 older sisters, still does, 5.5 years older and 10 years older. So all I remember is being slower and not as good at tennis and always wanting to be included in things, and just this, massive inferiority complex that I'm sure I carry with me even today, right? Like, you're just never as good as your older siblings. So it's super cute now that my sister Natalie, who's 5.5 years older, is obsessed with pickleball, like absolutely obsessed. And had she gotten into it when I did, like almost a decade ago, I mean, we could be like on the tour together, And so we just played the Masters together.
We watched. It was amazing.
She did great, right?
She did. I mean, I was super impressed. I know that. I mean, and you were such a fantastic partner to her. You were just so joyful and so positive. It was awesome to watch.
Thank you. There was a lot going on that week, right? That was the week of the tweet, which I know we're going to probably chat a little bit about. And so for me, I didn't go out there like wanting to take heads off. I was just like, okay, drama free. Like, let's have a drama free hour. Let's support my sister. But it's so fun now that she's this addicted to it. And, she has 3 kids under the age of 10. And she's 40 and she's freaking good. And I love this sport so much because it's not as physical as tennis, and because you can see Tina Pisnik, top 10, top 15 player in her 40s, and she's not the only one. I mean, Elise Jones has 2 children. I could sit here and name, quite a few women that have children or are, what someone would consider definitely in tennis is like way past her prime or way too old. And here we are, getting better and playing. So grew up playing tennis. grew up in Encino and then moved to Newport Beach. Played tennis at Pepperdine University and carried that complex over there because my sister was there for 4 years before me. She was an NCAA All-American. She played number one all 4 years. I went in at 16 years old. I was still growing. I was literally grew like an inch my first year. And wow. I didn't play number one till my junior year. So I wasn't as good as her at Pepperdine either. But,
wow.
Yeah, that's just a little bit about growing up baby Jill.
So you had two older sisters, 5 and 10 years older. Was it a competitive household? Did your parents, I know, like, you are very smart. Did your parents instill academics in you at a young age? What was that dynamic like?
Absolutely not. Oh my goodness. No, we were all tennis jocks. My oldest sister was number one in the country at 15 years old. She traveled on the USTA national team, actually with Ken Herman, the founder of the APP Tour, back when he worked for the USTA. My older sister, like I said, played at Pepperdine. So it was tennis, tennis, tennis. In fact, when I graduated, ended up graduating a year early from high school, I skipped 3rd grade. And so I took my SAT like my sophomore year as like, when you do like a practice, you're like, okay, well, let me just not study for it. Let me just take it and see how bad I am. And that'll give me like a baseline for how much I need to study. So I did that my sophomore year, never realizing I would graduate my junior year. And so when Pepperdine said, hey, send us your SAT scores, I thought, oh my goodness, like I just took it this one time, like 8 months ago, like here you go. And they're like, cool, that's like the lowest possible number our school can accept. You're in. So no, academics, I won't say were like my hottest topic in school.
I love how you just say that, but then you also say at the same time that you like skipped 3rd grade and then graduated early. So what are we talking about here, Jill?
I don't know. I did take it seriously in college. I did get good grades in college. But I was like, again, like scared that I wasn't going to be smart enough. I was like, oh, I've never studied. Maybe I should do that.
So you were just naturally gifted, but it seems like, your parents drove something into you. All you and your sisters. Do you think it was nature versus nurture? Like, where do you stand on that nature versus nurture argument?
I think that I can only speak from what I've heard my sister relay, because she has children and I do not. And she said a mistake a lot of parents make is they think their kid can become Tom Brady, but their kid's playing football in one season, then basketball the next. Then they have some tennis sprinkled in, and and then don't forget, they're going to play a little bit of baseball too. And so for us, it was like pretty one sport focused. And like, that didn't mean I didn't like play a little bit of basketball with my neighbor because they had a hoop. I played sand volleyball for fun. I was a junior lifeguard. I kayaked. We grew up on the bay, but really the focus was tennis. So, I would say my parents instilled that pretty early, but it was a really monkey see, monkey do. You see your older siblings doing something and you want to copy them. Do you have siblings?
I have one younger brother, and we did the opposite, actually. We played a different sport. We had our main sports, which for me was soccer, starting in high school, and Kevin was ice hockey. So he played ice hockey at Penn State, D1, was going to go pro. He had a major injury. We both kind of like, both of our careers ended because of an injury, which is like very depressing. But we sort of played all sports. Like, I traveled all over the country for basketball and soccer. I played ice hockey, basketball, softball. Like, I did all of these things at a very, like, basketball, I was traveling playing AAU until high school. And then I was like, I cannot travel for both soccer all over the country and world and basketball. And then we decided, but my parents like were very adamant that we do our schoolwork and we get our homework done. And like, that was always, they actually left our dining room open. They never put a table in there. And that was we had a basement, but that was our sports room. So I would like sit on the wall and head a soccer ball against the wall for like thousands of times and try to beat my record like every day. And I was like obsessed. So, but the arguments my point was, my mom would be like, you cannot go against the wall until you get done your homework. Like, sit down at the kitchen table and do your homework. This is in like grade school. And I was like, wow.
So. My mom was like, didn't even know if I had homework. Like, didn't even know if I went to school that day. Like, wait, I think by the time you get to the third kid, it's like, is she even home? Like, do I even care? Like, do I have a child? Has she been home this week is the question. Much less like, did you do your homework?
Oh, no. My mom would be like, you have a Spanish exam tomorrow. Sit your ass down.
Oh, my mom didn't know if I was in Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese. Was I in a language class? Like, no way. No.
Oh, my God. That is hilarious and amazing.
Also, you can head a soccer ball 1,000 times. I think if someone threw a soccer ball at my head, I'd probably pass out. I'd probably concuss myself, literally. Literally.
I have a weird, like, I can juggle a soccer ball, like, a lot. And that was, like, I was always, like, very skillful. I saw the field very well. But I would juggle for hours against a wall and hone my skills. So, anyway, it was, like, enjoyable. It wasn't, like, I did it because I wanted to. No one was forcing me.
Okay, not only could I not hit a soccer ball, but, like, I get so confused if I have to move my hands and my feet. Like when the ball is below my knees, like if it's a basketball, I'm fine. A volleyball, I'm fine. Tennis ball, pickleball, like totally fine. There's something about soccer where I like trip over my own feet, and I consider myself a pretty athletic person. And I have a theory. It's because I think I'm left-footed. Like I'm goofy foot when I surf. I'm goofy when I ride a scooter. And I really like pushing, and I know in pickleball I push off my left leg. Did you know you always push off of one leg more than another? Fun fact. So I think like my feet are confused. They like don't know who's the boss. Is the left one the boss or the right one the boss? So that's why I think I suck at soccer.
It could be. I think soccer is just a weird sport for a lot of people because you just in life in general, you do a lot more with your hands. Yeah. And so in soccer, it's very interesting. The average person could probably kick a ball. They usually use your toe, which you're not supposed to. You use the inside of your foot, the outside of your foot. But to really hone in the skill, it's just a very different skill set than most sports because you're using your feet.
I don't know. All I know is I've never had, I probably will never have children. But I like to fantasize sometimes about it. Like I know it's not going to happen. We've been trying, but something's not working, you know? My wife and I, just something's not working. But look, if I did have this magical, mythical child, I would definitely make them a kicker in the NFL. Would you do the same? It's like the best job ever.
I was thinking so we're Eagles fans, and I was thinking the exact same thing as I was watching. I'm like, I will say this, it is the most pressure-filled position when you get into these later games, right? Like you can literally win or lose a game on a kick. And although we know that it doesn't all amount to that, like it is intense as fuck, but like no injuries. You get to train as much as you want for your role. Like you could just master it. If you can master your own head and that pressure, yes, easy.
And you're like guaranteed to be gorgeous. Have you noticed that? No, I'm serious. Look at all the kickers.
I just remember, isn't Jake Elliott the Eagles? He's too small for me. I need a taller man. But
okay, sorry, Jake. Sorry, Jake, you're out. Hope you make your field goal in the Super Bowl. Are they in the Super Bowl? I don't even know. I don't even know who's in the Super Bowl.
Stop.
Okay, I know. I watched the Kansas City game, but I don't know who the other two teams are.
Eagles. There's one.
Okay, so it was the Eagles and the Bills?
It was the Chiefs played the Bills.
I watched that.
Eagles played Washington.
Yes.
Whatever. Red.
Okay, so congratulations.
Commanders.
You're in the Super Bowl. Congratulations.
Yes.
Your team's there.
Jake Elliott, you need to make your kicks in a week and a half. But
that's the other thing. When they miss the kick, everyone's like giving them like a high five and a pat on the back. I'd be like, punch me. Like, don't give me a high five.
I know. It is just it's a pressure-filled position in the most intense moments, but like 99% of your life is like so chill and easy. So it's kind of like, I always say I want kids badly. And I always am like, and my boyfriend is super athletic. Like, he played D3 football, but insane athlete. And like, we need to make him or her, like, baseball seems super amazing. You don't really get injured that much. Maybe you get tennis elbow, but they make a lot of money. They travel a lot.
They stand around a lot. Like, I don't know if I could just stand immobile for that long in the middle of a field. Like, I gotta move, you know?
Yeah, but you get like $1 million to stand, and then you can like do whatever you want. You can work out after you play.
Kristen said something pretty negative about baseball on our last podcast and had a lot of like scathing comments. So I'm just trying to help you get some engagement.
Okay.
Drop it in the comments, you guys.
Oh God.
Drop in the comments what you want our mythical children's future sports careers to be.
Yes. I'm maybe Pickle.
Maybe.
Pickle doesn't see. Okay. Let's get back to it. So you tell me that you're not this studious academic, but I know that you're extremely smart. You become an All-American at Pepperdine University. I played, I don't know if you know ODP, but back in the day for soccer, that was like the thing to do. If you were good, you're on the ODP team, state, regional, national, whatever. That's how you make the national team. There was a pathway. We had an ODP event at Pepperdine University. If any of you don't know, Pepperdine is, it might be, or the most beautiful school in the United States of America. It is insane.
It's insane. It's wild. I know. And our dorm rooms all have like ocean views, all of them. And if not, like if you're in the very, very back, you have like this gorgeous mountain view with the rolling hills behind the school that are on fire 92% of the time because we live in California.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so what was college life like for you?
So I was not an All-American, actually. My sister was. Well, my sister was, but don't worry, that's not like a sensitive topic or anything. No, I'm just kidding. It really isn't. It really isn't. It really, really isn't. And I loved every second of going to Pepperdine. It was actually the only school I applied to. I just was going to go there. That was it. That's all I wanted to do. And it's like the one thing in my life. I've been sure of like two things in my life. Like one was my wife and one was going to Pepperdine. Everything else is like, second guessing. But it's just a really magical place. I double majored in Spanish and marketing. I did graduate.
Whoa.
Magna cum laude, and the day of graduation they gave me like the sash that's like the magna cum laude thing, and I go,
yeah, I didn't get one of those.
I kid you not, this is a true story. I go, what is this? And they go, well, you graduated magna cum laude. I said magna what laude? Like, what does that mean? I had no idea. I literally had no idea.
Oh my God. Yeah, it means like you're one of the smartest in your grade.
No, you want to know how I conceptualized it? I was like, oh, is there one higher? But I didn't get that one. Oh, so I lost. Yeah, because if you're not first, you're last.
You're last.
Let's be really freaking clear here, okay? Second place is first place loser. So I got second place in college.
Oh my God. That just shows your competitive side, and I freaking love it.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So you graduate Pepperdine. Did you say you graduated early there too?
No.
Okay.
I started at 16, graduated at 20, just 4 years.
Okay. And then post Pepperdine, it seemed like you did a bunch of like, you worked at startups, I think you worked at like an agency or something for a little bit, and then you went to UTR.
There's nothing I haven't done. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 35. I didn't know you were supposed. I thought you were supposed to catch them all like Pokemon. I thought you were supposed to do like every job you could do. So I did that. No, I mean, genuinely, I'm interested in a lot of stuff. Yeah. I have really never fit the mold of like, other than maybe I played a lot of tennis, of just like one thing, right? Like when I got to Pepperdine, I fell in love with Spanish. I lived in Madrid. I was the first ever student to go abroad internationally because they were really against student athletes doing it.
Yeah.
Which is like a whole nother story. So it was really cool because that first summer I went to Spain, lived with a family. If you got caught speaking English, you were sent home. You like, did a blood oath. You cut your hand open, omerta. And you said, I'm speaking Spanish. And then what was so cool was 3 years later, I did an Italian program, and it was 50% athletes. And I had been the first ever athlete to go abroad 3 years before that. So I've just always been like interested in life. And I think that's okay. And a lot of my mentors growing up had been like at, Anheuser-Busch for 30 years, first ever female vice president. And they had these like kind of singular paths. And that's what I always like just thought was normal. And then I was like, wait, no, I'm super interested in this. Wait, no, like I want to learn about technology. Like it seems like the world's heading towards, digital and apps. Like what if I build an app? Like it's just, life is this amazing journey. And it's like to do just one thing, I think is a disservice to how exciting of a time we live in. And so I've always tried to listen to the universe. And I don't always know when something's right, Caitlin, but I think I have a good sense for when something feels wrong. And that's when I'll usually make a move.
That was so beautifully spoken. And I feel like you could have been just pushed right into that Chris Sacca and Tim Ferris podcast right there.
Thank you.
But no, I think that is awesome. I feel similarly. And I feel like I have lacked mentors, and in profession, like in my professional life, I'd say in soccer, I had them in other ways, but it's been hard. And I feel like I suffer from the lack of courage to make jumps and to I see all of these things I'm interested in, and I dabble with them instead of going all in. So I look up to the fact that you are able to do that. And we'll get into it in a second, but you were at UTR, you go to DUPR, you're at DUPR, you go to MLP. Like these are all different changes. And then you like completely slash in and say, fuck it, I am going pro pickleball. I just did this sick corporate career for so long. And then you go into pro pickleball. So that takes courage. That's like leaving the fear behind and taking that jump in, which I think is incredible. But let's start with UTR to DUPR. How did that happen?
Well, not to get too esoteric, but I feel like, life is not a dress rehearsal. I heard that quote when I was really young, and I was like, whoa, that hit me super hard. This notion that like, there's no second act here.
Yeah.
we don't get another go on this merry-go-round. I don't know. Maybe we do, right? We'll find out. And so I've always tried to live with that. And you are, by the way, even though you've been in your career in banking, look at how much you're doing. You started a podcast, you're dabbling, you were a general manager of a team, you are an owner of an MLP team. Like you're definitely got your foot in multiple things. So you should be really proud of that. You don't have to jump off the gangplank like me.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I'm very interested in finance. I love the markets to a degree, and I love sports, but I read this book. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it talks about...
Must have been really good.
It's just because I just started it, and I forget the name of it. But anyway, it talks about living and working in your zone of excellence versus your zone of genius. And I think I've been operating in that zone of excellence.
You're too good at a job you don't want. That's my phrase for that. My friend Nikki and I, oh my gosh, we were like when I was in the corporate world, I was like, I'm too good at this job I don't want. And she was like, that's how I feel. And I was like, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to work with my hands. I was like, what does that mean? She's like, I want to work with clay. And I'm like, I don't think you should become a pottery professional or whatever those are called.
Wait, is she in New York?
Yeah, Mickey. You know Mickey.
I just met her, I think, for the first time at Lydia's birthday party.
Yes, that's my best friend. Mickey.
She works at
it's like Salesforce, but not.
ServiceNow. My other friend from Duke works there. We introduced them, yes. Avery Rape and Mickey. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, okay. We went to high school together.
Wow. Yeah. Because she's from Cali. Okay. She's awesome. Okay.
But anyway, not to interrupt. Yes, you're too good. Yeah, don't be too good at a job you don't.
Yeah, it's just my area of genius is definitely sports. Like I just have been an athlete, and I love sports, and I love pickleball because I love learning the game, and I love like not only just playing and learning, but like looking at the different strategies and so much. It gets so complicated. There's levels to this shit, as we say. But okay, let's go back to you. You work at UTR and now you make the transition. Were you like offered the role of CEO of DUPR, or how did that happen?
What's so crazy about the UTR thing, and for those of you listening that you're not familiar with UTR, they're the official rating system of USA Pickleball and the APP. They started as a tennis rating system. They're a really renowned, just global sports business doing very, very well. And I was employee number like 12, and now they have 125 employees. And I was this weirdo employee who came from tennis, but I was like, hey, so there's this thing I do on weekends. It's called pickleball, and I really think we need to get involved in it. This is like 6-7 years ago. I'm like, we should do this. It's like really fun, you guys. I think we got to do it. And I think we should rebrand the business Universal Racket Sport Rating. And life is timing, and they were super focused on their core discipline, and it's really easy to go in startup mode, like a mile wide and an inch deep. And they were like, no, we're going to really double down on tennis. We're going to go, a mile vertical and an inch wide. And that was, I think, the right thing to do at the time, but I don't think they should have let as much time go by as it did, because obviously now they're trying to get into pickleball, or they are in pickleball. And so I left, and a big reason I left was I wanted to be in pickleball. I didn't think I wanted to be in ratings in pickleball. And Steve Kuhn called me and said, will you do some consulting for DUPR? And I did some consulting. And then he said, well, will you come on full time? I said, absolutely not. 100% no, hard no. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea, but I'm really burned out of technology. I'm really burned out of ratings. And a couple months passed, and he called me again, and he said, have you found something yet? I said, no, like I honestly haven't even been looking that hard. And UTR was gnarly. Like I was living in Silicon Valley. I was working crazy hours, and I was just kind of taking some time off. And he goes, okay, well, what if I offer you the CEO role, and you can do what you always wanted to do at UTR, but you could do it at DUPR. You could build this business how you want to build it. And so I thought that was tough to say no to, because I wanted to do a pickleball rating so badly. And doubles algorithms are fascinating. Oh, you had Sarah Carpenter on, so I don't need to go into it, but it's fascinating. Like decoupling the performance among pairs, disentangling performance among pairs. It's fascinating. And I don't have a math background, but I sometimes an algorithm doesn't feel like math. It feels like a logic puzzle, if that makes any sense. So I did that for a year and wanted to, like I said, I never wanted to go back into ratings and technology. So I got us to a really good place. The team was amazing. We had merged with MLP, and I said, is there a role for me at MLP? And I said, well, we could create one. And I was chief of staff, and I did that for like 2 months before realizing, oh my gosh, I think I could, at 33 years old, go pro, and I think I can hang. And this is something I've never told anyone. What really pushed me to that was MLP Newport Beach. And Anna Bright was working for DUPR. I actually hired Anna Bright. James Ignatowicz was an intern. I think at one point in time, like 50% of the top 20 players in the world were working for me at DUPR. And it was MLP Newport Beach, and Anna Bright and James were practicing. And I was like, hey, can I join you guys? I just want to get a workout in, because I had kind of quit pickleball to run DUPR. I felt like it was too big of a conflict of interest to do both. And they said, sure. And I played some skinny singles against Anna Bright, who was like, hot shit at the time. Like that, she was like, that girl's going to be like #1 in the world one day. And I don't think I beat her that day, but I hung. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is Anna Bright, and I'm hanging. I can do this. So.
Wow.
So then I went pro, quit my corporate career.
So when was that exactly?
When was MLP Newport Beach? 3 years ago? 2.5 years ago?
So I remember.
The Ranchers won it.
I don't know if I was there, because I was at Columbus in 2022. That was October of 2022. And then I remember with the team, when I was an owner, we had a meeting, and it was in Arizona, and it was the first one. It was MLP Mesa in 2023. And that I know in MLP Mesa of 2023, you were the chief of staff.
I left right after
after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this MLP Newport was 2 years ago, August. So it's August 7th, 2022.
Okay. So you kind of like knew that you were hanging and you could do it. Okay.
Yeah. And that gave me like the confidence, was like, hey, 3 months ago, I was hanging.
So interesting because so Kate Fahey is originally from my area in New Jersey.
Really?
Very close, like 35 minutes away. And before she even, I drilled with her one of the first days she ever played pickleball, and you could tell she had the raw ability for a while. But I drilled with her occasionally, and I feel like she crushes me in regular singles. And skinny singles, I feel like I can hang. Like I hang, but like she usually beats me. And that's why I'm always like, all right, these low-level pros at APP and PPA I can hang with, but like, do you give up your whole career to like, because I don't think I could ever reach the top. Like you're at the top now. But you're playing Anna Bright in her prime. You definitely realize you can hang. That's awesome.
Don't count yourself short. How much more time do I have to convince you to go pro? Come on, I'm looking for a doubles partner.
Your sister's
Dude, remember when you played with Kim Clijsters in New York? That was so cool. Have you ever talked about this on this podcast?
It's so funny. So Simone brought it up to me in her podcast. She was like, I was so jealous of you one time. Do you know what time I'm talking about? And I was like, no, can't be when I was hosting. And then she brought up that. And then Jenny Klitsch brought it up. So this is like the third time she's
okay. Sorry. No. That's so cool. I remember seeing that. Like, I didn't know you guys were going to be there, and I'm like, I think that's Kim Clijsters, and I think Caitlin and Kim are about to play in a professional pickleball tour. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, she asked me. She was like, I want to play in a tournament, but like local. And I was like, well, there's this APP New York City coming up. She's like, what's APP? And I was like, let's just play it. Like, it's close enough to home, and it's easy.
And then it got crazier, at least for me, because then after you guys were done with a match, I'm playing my quarterfinal or whatever, and I look over and I'm like, Kim Clijsters is watching me play a pickleball match. And it's like you and Kim on a bench with 4 other people, and I was like actually nervous. And I mean, like, I just played at the APP Fort Lauderdale, like 1,000 people, like standing room only. Like you could barely get in there. And I'm like, not nervous. And I'm like, Kim Clijsters is watching me right now. Like, I'm sweating. I'm uncomfortable.
I specifically remember watching you play and being on that bench and watching you play. And I was like, I didn't know Kim growing up. Tennis was not a sport I played. I had heard of her, but like she was nothing. Like I didn't look like if it was Mia Hamm. And so I cry. I've met Mia Hamm countless times now because she was friends with my college coach. Yeah, I cry every single time.
That's our Mia Hamm.
Yeah, and I'm like, Kim Clijsters. Like, who is that one? But anyway, she is an amazing human being. Everyone loves her in tennis. She was such a good player's player. Everyone loved her in the locker room. So she has just the best reputation, and she's very deserving of it.
Yeah, she's great.
Okay, so you basically realize you can compete with Anna Bright. You're going to go full-time pickleball. But obviously that wasn't the only thing that you thought about. You're probably like, I'm able to make a decent living, working a corporate job. Did you see the financial possibility?
That's what was so nutty about it all. I quit my, great tech job to go play pro pickleball. I asked my wife, I'm like, can I do this? And she's like, yeah, go for it. Our problem is I say, can I go do something? And she says, yes. And I swear one of these days that's not going to work out. Okay. It's worked out so far, which is really like a false positive. You know what I mean? She's sending me these false positives, and it's going to I would be like, hey, should we put our life savings in that new Donald Trump Bitcoin? She's going to be like, that's a great idea, babe. Go for it. Then I'm going to be on your podcast with a GoFundMe. But there was no money in it. Like, there was a little bit, Brooks Wiley, who was also CEO at DUPR at one point and was the commissioner of MLP. He made a joke to me once, like, are you going to quit and go pro? Because now there's some money coming in. Like, you're better than these XYZ people. And I laughed, and then went pro, and there was like a little bit of money, but nothing like we ever could anticipate coming in during like the tour wars and, you know, Steve Kuhn wanting to really provide a living for players. And it's funny because when I see all these articles that go out, Caitlin, that's like players making, you know, females are making $260,000 on the PPA tour. Wow, isn't this amazing? That's more salary than the WNBA or these other leagues. I always think, well, that was Steve Kuhn. Okay. Like he really wanted players to be able to buy a home, to have a steady income, to have injury protection, to have maternity leave, all of these protections. He really, really wanted players to have. So whenever I see that, I think that's primarily Steve. And then I also think like, you know, they're advertising that, but they actually don't want that, right? Nobody wanted to create this tour war situation with inflated salaries that are in gross misalignment with league revenues. So they're taking lemons and they're making marketing lemonade.
Right. No, I think
What's your
everyone
thought on
knows
that?
it's the level of pay to these players is unsustainable. I think the model is going to shift. You know, I think most of the contracts come up in 2 years, and I think the entire pickleball space is going to have a rapid shift. I don't know, like a lot of players not only get their salaries from MLP PPA, they also get pretty decent contracts from paddle sponsors right now. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in tennis. Not that I'm saying that that's going to change, but you're lucky to get some free gear in tennis. Yes. And you're like, I'm 50 in the world. Can I get like $1? It's like, no. Exactly. And so that seems to me, I think 3 years out, this sport is going to look a lot different than it does today for professionals. But in the meantime, all power to every pro they're raking it in right now. And some of them are just have their feet up playing golf. So good for them. But to me, it's, and I talked about this with Julie Johnson when she was on the podcast. I think she's one of my favorite people in not just pickleball, but the world. She's incredible. And I think most people think that for many reasons, but we had a deep chat about it that right now, a lot of professional pickleball players, they're really not pro athletes. Like I grew up playing soccer. I'm not sure this is a sport. It's a game right now. It's in soccer, you trained your entire life. You put everything into this. Mm-hmm. They're making 40, 50, 60 grand in NWSL to play full-time, intense, like insane. They're training every single day. They have their food, their diet on a strict plan. They're working out with a specific dedicated sports trainer. Like it is intense. Mm-hmm. They get drug tests. They get drug tests. I mean, we don't even have to get into the paddles, the balls, all these things. But like, they have rules that don't change. Yes, tournament to tournament, and it's just insane. The pros in pickleball that they happenstance fell into this, and everyone deserves credit. I mean, no matter what, if you're playing it, you made that decision, great. But like, this is the prime of pro pickleball, in my opinion. And the leaders at the top will continue to make money for a long time. But most of these players are going to be out because they're not working. They're not working like pro athletes. Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree with you. For what it's worth, I am. And that was that. Yeah. If anyone asked me what the hardest thing about all this has been, it wasn't the financial insecurity early on. It was going from 8 years in a desk chair to trying to become a professional athlete. After, I had done that in college with tennis in terms of being an athlete. But boy, that was really, 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 really hard. I had the business side down, like could start a podcast, could get 7 sponsors, all of that. And the supplements and the workout regimen and the strength training and the physical therapist. I mean, it's like, it feels endless. But yeah, I feel like it took 2 years and now I've got a grip on the physical part. Well, you look fantastically fit. And I know it's not always just how you look, but it's also like your mental state and how you're feeling on the court. So I think that does take time to master almost for yourself. And what's weird too about being kind of a
a second career athlete or having this second chance at it, 10 years after you hung up your tennis rackets, is it's the mental side too. Like the mentality that helped me win in tennis, that wasn't really the best thing in pickleball. Like you can't, I always say, leave your tennis at the door. Don't bring your tennis into pickleball. So not only was it the getting in shape again and getting in shape for the pickleball movements, which are different than tennis movements, it was also getting your mind right for a sport that is not a 2.5 hour long match. We're out there for 8 to 12 hours. Like at the APP Fort the other week, there was a rain delay. I started warming up at 7 a.m. I left at 8:30 p.m. There's just delays. And then you're warming up, but there's a delay. And then you warm up again. So you're like moving for 10 hours. Anyway, that's been interesting.
I went to India, I think it was November of last year, and I played pro. And that was the most, I've been dabbling and playing in little and pro tournaments, and I feel like I can play at like the low level of like an APP or a PPA, but I'm not making rounds, right? But going to India, the travel, then like you said, you play for 45 minutes, you play your match, and then you sit for 2 hours, and then you play another time, and then you sit. And I was like,
when do you eat? What's your mentality? Like, do you take your shoes off? When do you warm up again? Yeah.
I was bored. I was like, I have to sit here, and I love the people, but like you're talking to people that you don't really know, or like, I always say you can't have more than 5 best friends. You can fit them all on a hand, right? Like you're talking to these people that, who cares? Like, you know them, but they're not your best friends. You're not like, it's not amazing, right? You're not, some of them are playing cards. Some of them are playing pool. Some of them are sleeping. Some of them are eating. But I was like, damn, this is like boring. I'd rather be using my brain in some way. But like, you're not going to sit there and read a book while you're about to play. It's just a weird, how to fill the time.
It's like why I meditate. I just take those little breaks, close my eyes, go into a different world. And that has been so, so helpful. And just focusing on like gratitude for the moment. And that we all get to be here and like alive during what you called the prime of pickleball, the zenith of the sport. Like we're paid in some capacity to be a part of a sport with the word pickle in it. How serious can we take ourselves? And that's the mentality I try and bring, is this notion of like, all you can do is your best. And be present and enjoy this moment. It is an honor to be on a court right now. It truly is. It really is. Win or lose. And no one wants to win more than me. Nobody.
I know that.
I mean, I'll try and win a staring contest. Someone said that to me once, and I said, that's the biggest compliment anyone's ever given me. Thank you.
I agree. I think that is a huge compliment. I agree. You are an insane competitor, and
thank you.
More people, I think, should be like that. I think some people don't care enough, but you're winning a lot, right? Like,
thank you.
So right now, I want to talk about one thing. So you make the decision to go pro. You get signed in this crazy MLP PPA insanity merger, blah blah blah, craziness, and you take a buyout. Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, so a couple things. Anyone who accepted any modifications to their contract obviously wouldn't be able to talk about that. So if I accepted a buyout, I would never be able to say I accepted a buyout. So let's just set the stage there. Okay. So I don't get sued. No, I'm just kidding. So what I did do, or what I can talk about, is I have my freedom, right? I have my freedom to go play APP, to go play PPA. Well, who knows for how much longer with the new qualifying rules they've instituted, where if you're in the top 50, you can't play an event. So I chose to have my freedom. And I thought, you know what? It's a really big world out there. And you don't know what entity or who's going to get into pickleball tomorrow. And you don't want to be in a position where for 3 years, you're locked into guaranteed income. You have that safety blanket, but you're also going to miss out on this complete world of unknowns. And if there's anything you've learned about me in this podcast, God, I love that world of unknowns. Let's just walk into that dark closet and see like what's in there. And I think that's proven a good move for me personally. I've done really well on the APP. I have found incredible partners. I've learned more from those partners than I ever thought was imaginable. I've taken my game to a level I didn't think I could ever do. I thought candidly that all these tennis girls were coming in their 20s and just going to blow me off the court. And I'm like, I'm getting better. I'm hanging in. Like, hey, you're going to have to grab it from my cold, lifeless fingers. Like, come get me. Like, I'm here. I'm here for it. Seriously. And so, yeah, I just thought freedom was of tantamount importance. And now we see 3 different India leagues, 3, not 1, not 2, 3 different professional leagues paying $7,000 to $20,000 just to go and show up. $45,000 if you win the event, one event. They're saying that in 4 of the PWR majors, in each major, if you win an event, that's $50,000 per person. Now, look, let's see the events get scheduled, but I do believe they are going to be scheduled, and I do believe in these entities, and I do believe that the globalization of pickleball is not imminent because it is happening.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's hard not to take that security. I think we're realizing the dichotomy of our brains
easy.
Here.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, easy. I mean, the other thing is that I think is an interesting thought is if you're with that tour currently, if you're with PPA, UPAA, you are playing with and competing against the best players in the world, which I believe will continuously make you better if you're playing against the best. If you're playing against lower level talent, I think there is something to say. Yeah. However, freedom is, I mean, we see things like this in golf, and I think to not believe that other entities are going to come in and try to compete is stupid. We've seen it, like you said. We have PWR, Global Sports, and the World Pickleball Tour. I played at Global Sports last February for the first time in pro. I played at PWR this November. So it's here. It's just, do people actually have the funding that they say? Will they get their ducks in order? Will they actually have events? Like, we don't even, PWR was supposed to be in February now, or January. Now it was pushed to March, apparently. Right now, as we speak, MLP PPA is in Australia. We have Global Sports happening next week in India. Like, it's happening.
Yeah, and your comment about, playing against the best players in the world, I think that there is no entity in pickleball that will ever be able to contain all the best players in the world. That is a very short-term, near-term, unique 2-year period now in the sport. Hunter Johnson, a male pickleball player, was asked his opinion on top 5 singles players, men singles players. And he doesn't say Chris Hayworth. Chris Hayworth is arguably... some people would say the best singles player in the world. He's 100% top 3. You can fact check this or fact check me, or we can remove it or edit it later. Someone said he's the only person who beat Federico last year, or the only person that beat Ben Johns multiple times. There's some statistic here that I'm sure I'm butchering, but that talent is utterly undeniable. And that's not a signed PPA Tour player. Will Howells, I don't think there's anyone that would disagree that that is a top 10 male player. He's not on the PPA. So I don't think we should confuse quality for quantity. And again, I think this is a really small period of time where there's tremendous quantity and quality on the PPA.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Chris Hayworth. I mean, top 3, I'm trying to think who else would be that. I mean, obviously we have Ben Johns, Fed, whether you want to put them 1, 2, and then who's the third? It's tough. Maybe it's Chris. Chris is up there. It's funny because I don't know if I would. He's definitely top in singles. Yeah. Dubs, he's not there yet. We know that, but he could get there. And Will Howells is definitely. I mean, these people are offered contracts, but now they're all negotiating because now they're worth more than the league might think they're worth, and vice versa. So it's tough, but I think you're right that it's a short period in time. And we shall see how it ends up.
And then there's Armand Bhatia, who I understand is like absolutely exceptional. He's international. There's names and people that, we're just starting to hear about. And I don't think talent can be denied or contained. And I don't think it's just this hyper localized thing, especially with the globalization of the sport.
I played Global Sports in India Pro tournament in February of 2024. Armand Bhatia and Harsh Mehta took Andre Deescu and Rob Nunnery to 3 games.
Wow.
Rob Nunnery did have a knee injury, so that's like an asterisk you definitely want to put there. But still, like, they were legit enough a year ago, and they're only getting better. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So okay, you are slated to compete actually at PWR in India.
Yeah.
Apparently it's going to be happening in March.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? We talked about it briefly, but just like the entities that are coming up overseas, like how did you choose PWR over Global Sports, over the other World Pickleball Tour, or going to Australia? Like, how are you navigating the pro landscape?
Closed my eyes, put my finger out, saw where it landed. It was like, oh, PWR. No, I'm totally kidding. Megan Fudge helped me make that decision. She's very close with Prawn Coley, the CEO of PWR. We had Prawn on our podcast. I really liked everything he was saying, his vision for the sport. I think that he's really well heeled. I like that he's got what seems to be significant investment and investors, especially in the Times Now group in India, which is a very large media conglomerate in India. And so it was a mix of Megan plus getting to know Prawn personally that led me to choose PWR. But there are multiple entities that are coming in, like you said.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I know Prawn very well. I mean, I went to Dubai for the Global Pickleball Tour launch. I went to India.
Right.
I met the Times Now group, this guy, Vineet Jain. I met him.
Feels legit, awesome. Right?
I went to his penthouse in Dubai. It's real.
Talk pickle to me, Caitlin. Is your boyfriend allowed to listen to this part?
Not solo. But Vineet Jain, you can talk pickle to me anytime you want.
Oh my God, I love it.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I met all the people that are involved with PWR. I met all the people involved with Global Sports. It's to me, it seems like India and overseas entities are where the U.S. were a year or two ago.
Wow, that's pretty quick then that they've caught up.
They're messier.
Yeah.
They're not organized as well. They don't know what the hell is going on, but they're like, we're in. You know?
I heard singles is like the event people are into internationally versus doubles.
Yes.
Have you heard this? Do you believe that? Or
I didn't hear that. Okay. I know that, look, when I was there, everyone's way better at singles.
Yeah.
They all suck at doubles.
Yeah.
They suck. Like, they're not good. You know, there's like the two best girls are like Caitlin, I forget her last name, but Roos Van Week and her partner Caitlin Hart. And like, they're not going far in APP or PPA. But like, Roos competed hard, took Caitlin Kristen to 3 in this MLP Australia tournament.
Wow.
In singles, and Summer De Laban is playing Caitlin Kristen and beat some other. So like, they can compete more, in my opinion, in the singles realm. Like me and Sophia Suing almost beat. Like my paddle got delaminated, and I didn't know. Whatever. I don't need to go into that detail, but like we can compete and almost beat the number one team. And then like I don't play that often, and Suing is very. I think Sophia Suing's like going to be very, very.
I just
good.
saw her play. I was very impressed. Yeah.
Very good. She is a competitor. She's anyway. So it's going to be interesting, but I think that's why, because they're all better, much better at singles.
That makes sense. And then you have, a lot of people don't know this, but a badminton court is the same size as a pickleball court.
Exact same size.
So that makes this whole struggle that we've had here in the U.S., right? The fight, the war over courts, kind of a non-issue for a lot of these international locales.
Yeah, much easier. But I think India, I think China's ramping up. I know Steve Kuhn's doing some things in China, and another group's doing a lot in China. So it's going to be very interesting to see the competition that comes up. But I mean, you recently had a tweet that went absolutely viral. It laid out the bridge loan request by UPAA to its owners, as well as many other aspects of the pro pickleball landscape. Why did you tweet that?
It's a great question. And my wife and I talk about this on our podcast, is like, why do we do what we do? Like, it's a way easier life just to like win medals, train, make my sponsors happy. Like, we don't need to put ourselves out there continuously. And I think that we're in a unique position because playing pro pickleball is gravy for us. It's fun, right? I'm not supposed to have this second athletic career at 35 years old. So for us, there's less on the line, right, than if you're fully employed by the PPA Tour or MLP or the UPAA. So we're in a unique position where we're able to speak the truth. We're able to tell stories, to share insider knowledge that kind of comes our way, to be this conduit and this vehicle to happenings that are interesting and to shed light on situations that we think maybe smell a little funny. And that's why we do what we do.
I mean, this tweet got last time I checked, 729,000 views. Almost 1 million impressions. I was absolutely shook when I saw that. The founder and CEO of UPAA and the chief of strategy, so Connor Pardoe and Samit Adwani, responded, defending their tour and sort of like attacked your play as a pickleball player. How did you feel about that? And did you expect them to respond that way?
You know, Maya Angelou has this quote, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So was I surprised by their response? Absolutely not. They've been showing me who they are for years now. And if you know me, you know I am a hyper-rational person. I can be pretty emotional on the court. I can wear my heart on my sleeve on the court. But in business and life, I'd call myself pretty level-headed, pretty logical. They could have called me. They have my number. You know, I'm former chief of staff of MLP. I'm actually a shareholder in the UPAA. I exercised options. So mainly that I wouldn't be left out of investor notices, of which I've received absolutely zero. That's another story for another time. But they didn't call me because they're scared. They're terrified. They responded to my facts with total and utter emotion and anger and vitriol. And then, you know, demeaned my talent, called me a grudge-holding, talentless liar, then just proceeded to provide totally unfalsifiable, unsubstantiable information about their business. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to respond. I think it probably tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I thought the part where they went at your play was specifically interesting to me because it demeans every single other player in the league who is not as good as me. Like, if I suck, what does that say about the other 80 women you're paying $260,000 a year to suck? Like, dude, do you hear yourself? Is that what you thought too? Well, I thought Jill is 1,000 times better than a lot of the women that are signed to the tour. So I thought, do they just not know like actually how good you are? Because I feel like sometimes that does happen. Like with Gabe Tardio, maybe or maybe not signing. I'm like, Gabe is like one of the best fucking players in the world right now.
I just beat the Brooklyn Aces.
Yeah.
Like the month before, like his own team. Like your own team. You're calling me talentless. I just beat your team. I beat your women.
Yeah, I just did it. That part specifically. I was like, let's keep it at the business level, and we can like not talk about her play because she's clearly a fantastic player, and that is like, there's no arguing that to me. I don't know, but other than that, it just seems that they were trying to. I didn't think that tweet was going to get that much. You said it on your podcast too. I'm pretty sure you spoke the same things that you wrote, but I guess Twitter just blew up because it's easier for people to see than listen to long form. I think you kind of said the same thing in your podcast. I could be wrong.
No, exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the first time in a long time, maybe ever, they haven't been able to control a narrative. And that's a scary thing, right? When you're able to control a narrative, when you're paying hundreds of people. And by the way, when you're a salaried player, right? Like, because we hear like, oh, why don't more people speak up or talk about this stuff? There's this Upton Sinclair quote that I love. And it goes like this. It's very hard to get someone to understand something that their salary depends on them not understanding. Right? Yeah. So the PPA or UPA is very accustomed to controlling narratives. And this was just one that got out of hand that they couldn't. As far as facts, which if you go and you read the tweet or you read the blog, I try to stick to the facts. I've asked stakeholders of UPAA, team owners, executives, like, what did I say that was incorrect? You know, they could have called me, they have my number, and said, hey, we need you to make a retraction. You misspoke. I would have done that. I would have said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for informing me of the truth, the correct information. Let me go ahead and on our next podcast or my next tweet, I'll go ahead and I'll make a change. You know, I apologize. And so when I asked the stakeholders, you know, what did I say that was incorrect? They don't like the use of the word emergency. So I used the wrong, perhaps, or questionable adjective, but the facts are there.
I think it's also interesting because you've been in the sport for such a long time. So you have really good relationships that are also, you have intel that maybe other people don't.
Well, dude, if everything's so good in your business, why are your team owners calling me? Like, it's not owner, it's multiple. Like,
yeah.
Like, a team owner listened to our podcast and called Kristen and went, Jill's totally right. They're treating us like freaking piggy banks. Like, dude, get a hold of, like, your narrative with your stakeholders, your team owners. Like, don't be mad at me.
Yeah, I mean, I just was like, Jill has been in this for, I mean, you've been in it longer than Samin. You've been in it like Connor, maybe not around the same time, but you've been in it long enough. You have very deep relationships. And I think this was just like, it showed that. Like, you're getting information from people that is true to some degree and maybe the full thing. So it's a very interesting story. Yet to see how this plays out. You're still competing on the PPA tour sometime. You played Masters a month or a couple days after. So.
Oh, and that was another thing. Like that. So I do the tweet, and then going into the Masters, there's this like 4-day period where, you know, these executives, particularly one in particular, is like tweeting about me every day. Should we put her on center court? Should we do this? She withdrew from mix. So it's like cyberbullying, literally, a female on his tour. Which is another thing. If you're really en route to this $1 billion valuation as you espouse, your resignation letters would have been tendered the day after you verbally abused on social media a female on your tour. So that goes to show you, you know, how they're running their organization. But yeah, that whole week of the Masters, it was like just renting space in their head for free. Like literally just tweeting about me and saying, oh, I withdrew from mixed. I didn't withdraw from mixed. Someone put pressure on my partner, CJ Klinger, a 17-year-old, to withdraw. Yeah, I didn't withdraw from mixed. He was put under pressure to withdraw.
Interesting. Why would that be? I mean, you're already playing women's. What does that? It seems bizarre. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're still able to compete on the PPA tour?
You know, they have a new rule where if you're in the top 50. So again, this is all so strange. This is why a lot of people call the PPA Tour an exhibition tour, because you have these salaried players, not a ton of meaning behind winning a tournament or ranking or getting your ranking up. And now if you're in the top 50, you have to sign to continue to play. You can't go into qualifying anymore. So think about that. If you're ranked in the top 50 and you're an unsigned player,
okay,
you now have to sign a contract to continue to play. You can't go through qualifying anymore. You cannot go through qualifying anymore. So that removes you having to play Jill Braverman and CJ Klinger in qualifying. It removes this issue they were having where last week Vivian Glozman and Jackie Kawamoto were in qualifying. So it
because
removes...
Vivian Glozman wasn't signed to PPA.
Yeah.
She was only MLP, which is weird.
So do you want the best players competing on your tour? Do you want Chris Hayworth? Do you want Jill Braverman? Do you want Vivian Glozman? Or do you want this completely insular exhibition tour where the best players now, if they're in the top 50, can't compete? Like it's do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's very confusing. Like,
what would if you're them, what is the rationale behind doing that so people don't complain that they have to play top players in exhibition in the leading up rounds?
Yeah, I think you'd have to ask them, but I think it's extraordinarily unfair to pay $750 for 3 events you enter qualifying and your first round is CJ Klinger and Jill Braverman. I think that's incredibly unfair.
It's horrible. I've actually been in that position. I've played APP, and you're playing, like, at the time, Andre Mick and Allison Harris were like top. They were crushing. This was like 2 years ago now. And we had to play them first round. And we're like, fuck, anyone else?
Well, yeah, this isn't even first round. This is qualifying.
Yeah. Well, it was in qualifiers. It was in qualifiers. Yes, but I hear you. And that does really suck, because you spend a lot of money and you get one loss in qualies. Well, it's done. Basically.
And then I think a lot of it is the same reason now that if you're not signed, you can't play MLP.
Yeah.
Which, it's like, hey, you're not signed. We've signed, Angie and Alex Walker to contracts, and, I'm paying them to sit on the sidelines. Like, let's get them in MLP. So I think it's also part of that. Like, why should you as an unsigned player earn a right to go through our draws? But that's not a tour. That's not a tour. I mean, imagine in tennis, right? You being told, I'm sorry, you could have qualified for the US Open, but you know what? You didn't sign this agreement.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you want the best players. You want the people who can earn their way in.
Yeah. I mean, that's Jenny Klitsch was on the pod 2 episodes ago, and that's what she was kind of saying. She believes that APP is the only tour right now.
Yeah.
Because of that issue. Like I said,
yeah, they don't have a tour, they have a club.
Right. It's going to be very interesting, because now they have that Challenger Series, which is completely separate, held at separate locations to, like, earn spots into the main draw at actual events.
Correct. So that's what they would say to, like, a Chris Hayworth or my friend who's in the top 30 in women's singles now. They'd say, like, okay, if you want to earn your way into the main draw, you can't go through qualifying, but I think you can go and win a challenger event to get a main draw slot. So I think that's the workaround, but no one's going to go do that, because if you're that good to go play a challenger series to earn a main draw slot, it just doesn't make sense.
Right, because I think it's only worth one main draw slot. So then you're playing a tournament. Yeah. UPA also created UPAA, a governing body that competes with USA Pickleball. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's tough when you have a for-profit entity trying to have this arm and this arm that says, oh, well, we don't have revenue targets. We're just trying to do the best for the sport. You're still part of this for-profit entity. And I think it's a real shame to have this bifurcation of rules and formats and scoring and standards. It's just messy, it's just messy alphabet soup, just like with tennis, where you've got WTA, ATP, ITF, USTA, UTR, WTN, and, I could go on for an hour with the acronym soup of tennis. And I think we want to avoid that as much as possible in pickleball. And candidly, I think if you were to look 5 years down the road, I do think it will all merge. I think UTR I think UTR should buy DUPR. I think PPA and APP, I think, will do some type of deal. I think it's all on the table.
Well, if there's anything that I learned from being a part of this sport since 2021, it's that things that you never think will happen.
You're totally right.
The like you said, you were like, I will never go back to Newport Beach and live with my mother. And I'm here. Yeah. And it's like, that is exactly how I saw, like, all of the leagues, all of that BS happen in a way that I was like, that will never happen. And it did. Yeah. And Chris Sacca, he said, life's magic is in the unpredictability of it.
Totally.
That's what makes life so magical. So I think we're seeing that play out, but I didn't think about, I am lost. I will say that I am very, 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 very lost on USA Pickleball and like their relationship with the UTR rating and how that works at APPs.
Yes, think about them as all partners. They're all working together.
They are. And I understand that part, but I don't understand, like, every single amateur is confused. A lot of amateurs went to the APP in Fort Lauderdale in wrong brackets because no one knows, like, if their DUPR is a 4-5, what should they play in APPs? No,
I think it's like
confused.
a +1, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
people are saying it's like a
4-5,
point.
and it's like 5-5. I don't even know, to be candid with you. I have not researched it whatsoever.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that you make that scenario of like a UTR buying a DUPR and a PPA merging with APP, and what happens to PWR? Like, will they all become one? I think maybe. But it's interesting on the soccer side of things. Like, NWSL has been like the women's sports league for the past, 12 or 11 years. And now this year there was a league that just developed in the US that is kind of like the secondary league, because they're like, we actually have enough players to now source a secondary pro league in the United States. And it's called like USL, and they're kind of like competitors. And ultimately, does NWSL buy them? Do they stay as is? But they've already gotten some broadcast deal. It's not phenomenal, but like, they're getting sponsors, they're getting revenue. And it's interesting how right now soccer's so hot. It's insane worldwide, and we're seeing that. So I don't know. I think about that too. All right. So getting down to the last of this, summarize, you've been playing pro pickleball for 2 years now. What's it like being a professional pickleball player?
It's the best thing in the world. It really is. I am a total introvert in this like extroverted role, which is such a mind trip, so to speak. Like, my ideal night in the past would have been like a book, my 2 cats, a fireplace, a glass of bourbon, but I haven't had a drink in a year, actually over a year.
I love that journey for you.
Thank you.
I was following you on that, and I really don't drink, but I never liked I was crazy partier in high school, barely drank in college, partied a lot when I was on Wall Street, and then haven't for the last 7 years.
Okay, so you've gone in some cycles.
Yes, but I don't drink anymore because I love waking up feeling amazing, walking my dog, playing sports. Like, my body feels so fit and so ready to go for adventure, whatever I want to do. So
it's the best.
Yeah,
it's literally the best. So just having your job be to take care of your mind, to take care of your body. I've been just doing just a ton of gratitude work and a ton of meditation. Read Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural, totally life-changing book. Mo Gadot, 1 Billion People Happy is an amazing book.
Love Mo Gadot.
You know Mo Gadot?
I love Mo Gadot. Love Mo Gadot.
He's the best.
The best. He has a different book.
Scary Smart. Scary Smart, 1 Billion People Happy.
Solve for Happy is the one that I loved.
I'm reading that right now.
So good.
So yeah, just getting to focus on winning being like an outcome, like a natural outcome to all the other stuff you do is what I'm trying to say. Like, it can't be the goal, which is always weird because you're a pro athlete and you want to win. But it's like, you want to accidentally win. You want it to be like, I won because I did these other 7 things, right?
Yes.
And I did those 7 things really well. And it all starts and ends with your brain, like your mind, and just getting that in a really, really good place, and practicing empathy. I'm like turning into my better half, who could literally empathize with a serial killer. So it's just crazy to be, 35 years old and feel like you're at the beginning of life's journey. And that is a blessing and a gift.
That is so beautiful. And, no one gets to where they are by themselves. You bring up your better half, your closest teammate, your wife, Kristen, K-Dub. She seems to be instrumental in your success in pickleball.
Totally.
What is it about you two that enables you to not only be lifelong partners off the court, but you're also business partners? She seems to do a lot for you. I see her videoing a lot. I think she edits your podcast, but talk about that relationship in entirety.
When you were in high school or even before, and you'd have a slumber party with your best friend, and you'd be up all night laughing, eating popcorn, watching a movie, whatever. That's every night. We are just constantly laughing, having fun. Yes, there's serious elements of the business stuff, but really everything is a joke inside of a joke, wrapped in a joke. And every single day getting to do this with her is so much fun. And we actually worked together at DUPR. I hired her at DUPR, and she was doing a lot of the marketing work, and that was the absolute worst time of our relationship. We almost didn't make it. And this was like 3 years ago. We literally almost didn't make it. And I think what was hard about that was you're working with your spouse, but she works for you. She works for someone that works for you, right? And that was a weird dynamic. But in this dynamic, we're just equals on this crazy journey together and figuring it out together. And that is super fun.
Yeah. So is she doing it kind of full time, would you call it? Like, is this what she's doing?
Yeah. I would say she's doing this 70% of the time and then 30% of the time teaching golf. So she's a former collegiate golfer from University of Texas. Then she went pro, played on the Symetra Tour. I actually caddied for her in a major. She qualified for the ladies KPMG is what they call that. And I caddied for her. It was like the time of my life. So she teaches golf. She still plays a little bit, taught herself how to play left-handed when she had ACL surgery on her knee last year. But yeah, so we're like she's 70% pickleball.
And describe like what she's doing for, like, with you, I guess, not for you, with you.
I would say she does all of our podcast editing. I actually edit my own Pickleball Breakdown podcast. Shout out to myself for learning how to use Final Cut. No big deal. And Riverside. She films, edits, produces a lot of our social media content, a lot of our funny ideas. She obviously stars in them. Mm-hmm. And then she manages a lot of our travel. And then at tournaments is like my coach, like warmed me up for nationals. We do like hand-eye coordination drills together. She gives me advice. Yeah.
That seems like bliss.
It is.
It's so amazing to be able to go on that journey with somebody and they see. It's hard because when you're in a sport like this, you have to travel a lot, and a lot of times you're on your own, and it's a lot of downtime. And to have somebody understand sort of all of the highs and the lows and the ins and the outs and the little nitty gritty things that are so difficult to keep somebody up on if they're not in it, that's special. I mean, not a lot of people get that.
Yeah, no, feel very, very lucky.
Okay. You have the best resume I've ever seen. It's one of my favorites of all time. You were a model, which we didn't even get to talk about. You are a pro pickleball player. You're a CEO. You were a founder, consultant. What is next for Jilly B? Give me the 5-year plan. What's next for Jilly B?
Whatever it is, I can tell you with 100% certainty, I have no idea what it is right now. Because that's been the theme, right? Like that's been the total theme is like listen to the universe. I really do believe if you listen to the universe, she is always speaking. You just have to tune in. And so I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep listening to the universe. I can tell you that I am absolutely and utterly fascinated by the world of pickleball training aids. And I love teaching. If you're listening to this and you're interested in coming to a camp, I'm doing 5 camps this year. You can go to jillybpickleball.com/camps. Come see me. And I think there is really little, very limited pedagogy on pickleball instruction. I think it's totally like building the plane as we fly it. Like I'll play a tournament and I'll be like, whoa, he just hit his third shot drop with like the wrist cupped that intensely and the ball was like totally behind his torso. Like, is that like a new style of third shot drop? So I'm like really fascinated by the technical elements of pickleball and the fact that there isn't this, like I said, this pedagogy on it. So I definitely want to start building some Jilly B training aids and hopefully do that in tandem with a paddle company. Hopefully I sign with a new one soon. I just left Gamma the other week actually. Oh, wow. And so I do think pickleball is the future, Caitlin. I just don't know what in it.
That's the $1 million question, Jill. That is the $1 million question. I think we see right now the 2 spaces that are actually generating revenue are paddle companies and facility operators. Totally. And is that it? I don't know. Maybe a little bit of camps, clinics.
No, you're totally right. Like, how do you keep tapping into the recreational players? Because that's where, that's like the only segment that people can make money off of right now.
Right. I've talked to actually a couple people in the last 2 weeks about that. I think the training aspect of pickleball coaching aspect, whatever you want to call it, that has leaps and bounds to grow.
Yeah. And like, I'm waiting for the high performance academies and like the kids who are obsessed with it. Like, that's so fun. And I can't wait to see that happen.
All the good things. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. The last and final thing that I have every guest do, you have to say, talk pickle to me in the sexiest way possible. Okay. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Caitlin, will you talk pickle to me?
Yes, baby. I absolutely love it. Once again, thank you for coming on to this. This was like I love you too. This was such an amazing conversation. So fun, so entertaining, so insightful. You're so smart.
As are you.
I am not. I did not graduate early from high school. I graduated early from college, but that was for soccer. But anyway, you are amazing. Thank you for being a trailblazer, truly, in pickleball. You've done so much to grow this sport. I'm just so impressed with your background and what you've done. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Talk Pickle to Me. This is with Jill Braverman. Make sure you're following Jill on all of her social accounts. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Jilly B Pickleball.
Jilly B Pickleball. Make sure you subscribe to both of us. Follow us on Instagram. Once again, this podcast is at Talk Pickle to Me. And come back for the next episode. We drop new episodes every single Wednesday. We'll see you next week.
Mwah.